Hi, my name is Levi Singh. I am from South Africa. I had started my advocacy in the climate movement during COP17 in 2011, the first climate change conference in South Africa and on the African continent. When I was in high school, we were bombarded with apocalyptic headlines about the state of the ever-changing climate and how it was going to affect young Africans adversely. To my surprise, there were very few Africans and young Africans at this climate change conference. So as a young person and reading newspapers and connecting with other young people, I had then connected with the broader network of the few young Africans and young people from the Global South that were at the conference at the time. And we had formed what is referred to as the SAYCC, so the Southern African Youth Climate Coalition. And that went on to become one of the fastest growing climate organizations and movements in Southern Africa. After my climate work, I had then found out about the field of public health. And I had then become very interested about issues pertaining to human rights and HIV prevention. I personally had gone to a very conservative Christian school where we were taught abstinence-only sex ed, so no sex ed at all. And I was very ignorant to the issues pertaining to HIV and human rights. So I was very interested to learn more, and I had actually used Facebook to make contact with the UNAIDS Eastern Southern African team when I found their Facebook page. And I asked them what they were doing with young people and how could I get involved. And this was in 2014, and as many might know, the world in 2014 was shifting from the Millennium Development Goals to the Sustainable Development Goals. And at that time, UNAIDS was really trying to position HIV as a political issue within the Sustainable Development Goals process. And they had pulled together a string of young leaders from Eastern Southern Africa to advocate for positioning HIV within the 2030 agenda. And I was one of those young people that were connected to the climate movement and other movements, and I had managed then to connect other voices to advocate for not just HIV, but the broader youth priorities that should be included in the Sustainable Development Goals in 2014-2015. Safe to say, we managed to get an international focus and international consensus on HIV and in particular adolescent HIV within the Agenda 2030 framework. We also managed to integrate issues around climate and HIV with sexual reproductive health and reproductive rights through SDGs 3, 4, and 5. And that was a clear win. And I realized then that I wanted to work in multilateralism, but more so connect multilateralism to what was happening domestically and domestically to the multilateral space based on the policy and advocacy work that we were doing in South Africa with actors like the South African National AIDS Council and other bodies in South Africa. And that then spurred on more work around meaningful youth engagement, participation, and leadership, especially in the policy-making space. It had spurred on work around improving how accountability mechanisms function and interact with young people in public health and human rights spaces. And the work has continued since 2015. It's taken regional characteristics within Southern Africa. It's grown into work at the African Union, also within the United Nations system. I now find myself in a position to offer advice, guidance, and strategic lobbying and advocacy to the South African presidency, which currently leads the Global Leaders Network on Women, Children, and Adolescent Health through President Ramaphosa. We've been advocating for South Africa to now display domestic leadership to establish an adolescent sector. We will be amongst the first in the world to have a dedicated sector that can coordinate not just civil society work, but the whole of government to really find adolescent priorities within their annual performance plans and their work plans, so that we're not just talking about youth as this homogenous group from 15 to 35, but we're looking at young people across the life cycle. And we're able to make the necessary investments in the human capital of our country. And President Ramaphosa's leadership has been really instrumental through the Global Leaders Network. And as civil society and as a young professional, I am really committed to advancing that agenda and to ensure that adolescents on the African continent are not continued to be viewed as little adults or big children, but as a unique demographic that requires investment, that requires support, and that ultimately is the future of our economies and the future of our democracies. So in short, that is my journey so far, and that's my contribution. My name is Levi Singh. I've taken my local action. It's time to take yours.